years of age will not have their contracts being renewed or extended?
Actually, I had noted the issue of priority, that yes, and I think we must take a lead from what the president said the other day when he was at a passport parade for the NYS recruits, when he suggested to the Kenya Defense Forces and the National Police and other security agencies that please, when you're recruiting, because the people that go through the NYS, first of all, get a 6 months paramilitary training. So it makes perfect sense that if possible, do about 80% of those. And they come from every corner of the Republic. So even in respect to these interns, I think we should give priority when it comes to absorption to those that have gone through the program. Thank you.
Junet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, through the nominee, there are one or two issues is for clearing the air, and one is a question. The ones of clearing the air is you served as Attorney General for the last, let's say, 2 years now, a few months remaining. The issues that came that people were not taking your advice, whether they were legal or they were non-legal, I don't know, but your advice, which I assume they were legal. Could you touch on that matter? And then the other issue is when you were working at the Attorney General.
Which people? He was not advising people, he was advising the government.
Yeah, I'm saying.
So be specific with your question.
No, I'm saying there was accusation, there were statements out there saying that your advice was not being taken. There was a statement out there in the public domain that your advice was not being taken. So the advice could be taken by the government people in whichever capacity they are serving. Then secondly, the issue of when you are running the office of the Attorney General, there were issues, I found that one in Parliament, between your office and the Public Service Commission in terms of recruitment of that office. And now you are going to be working with them in terms of policy, you will be in charge. How will you take care of that? Then my last question is, the president, when this uprising happened the other day, one of the statements he issued was that people who have reached the age of 60 years must leave the civil service. But there are people who are 60 now and still working. They have contracts that are running. Now, and that is the way we can bring up the youth into the system when you create space for them. So what do you think you will do if you get favor with this committee and you are appointed? Will you create that space for the youth so that these people who have clocked the age of 80, they should leave, that they leave the civil service? Because they have 60 and not 80. No, I didn't say 80, 60. No, you people, I know why you're saying 80, but I said 60.
Us, Posing.
Thank you, Speaker, and the nominee, Speaker Emeritus. One is, should you get favor, now that the word is popular, should you get favor from committee and approved by Parliament? Please, what practical thing will you do? Will you audit or something like that in terms of community balances in terms of employment in public service? Because that item, although the Constitution prescribes Honorable Speaker Emeritus, but it's being abused. Nobody follows completely. And therefore, it's very skewed. Employment of government in public service is very skewed. So what will you do, an audit or something like that? And how will we know that actually you did that? Number two is have an overlook or a compound look at the counties' public service, public service. I think, Honorable Chair, if there are people who are, I will say, they are suffering psychologically, are almost the entire employees of counties. Entire counties in this country, 47. Why? Because when a governor leaves, another governor comes, there's a lot of sacking. Everybody's going home. You don't know what's going on. And therefore, that imbalances or lack of security or lack of known or policy makes actually compromise public service and services at the counties. So please, should you get favor and approved? I know you have the demeanor, you have you are a leader of this country. Please make sure that you have an overlook of counties. Counties are suffering. I thank you, Chair.
Ikaria.
Thank you, Chairman. disciplinary cases for civil servants, ordinarily there is an allegation out there that they take too long for the appeals. If an action has been taken by a ministry, so when they make an appeal comes to the Public Service Commission, then it takes unnecessarily too long. And my second question is about your resignation. When you are invited to make your introduction, I heard you say that you resigned.
Yes.
Are we expecting another resignation after you're approved? Thank you, Chairman.
We can take Hamisi.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker.
Just not the nominee.
Thank you, Speaker. I just have one question, Speaker. This National Youth Service that falls under your docket is really dear to me because of the youth aspect and the youth population bulge that most countries are grappling with, Kenya not exempted. And if you look at the history of the National Youth Council, started National Youth Service at the independence. In fact, the late director of Stare was at the center of the foundation of this institution, where Stare was schooled. And the discipline we get at Stare is the same discipline that was supposed to be replicated in those services. And the paramilitary training just came in later. But you know, the essence of it was to make youth participate in the national building. They get skills at a very small stipend, and they build national. But you see, the way we've structured National Youth Service, it's become a privilege for the who is who, that letters are flying around. Leaders, you know, taking letters across the constituency, the most privileged are getting more letters than the others. But it's supposed to be a program that consumes all our youth into a training pool. In fact, it was borrowed to, this is an issue that has faced many countries in history. US, when they had this issue of youth population bulge, they what we call the Peace Corps, where young people were being sent across the world to be, incorporated in different ways of culture, heritage, and, they learn a lot, they come back and they build their nation. This is the problem we have with the youth. We do not know how to do with this chunk of young people for the benefit of the country. How are you going to structure NYS in a way that it does not become a privilege rather than an expanded program that takes all the young people across? And don't talk about the budget, because all the problem has always been we don't have enough money. But there's a lot of wastage. That place has become a cash cow. People walk in, do tenders, and they get rich, but the youth are suffering outside there. What is this you are going to do differently in that institution, once and for all? Because we've had these talks about NYS for quite some time. What is this unique thing?
Nominee, if approved for appointment, which 3 specific reforms would you give priority?
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Honorable Chairman, I have one question to our nominee, and I'm looking at the constitutional mandates for gender representation. And I just see that women remain underrepresented in public service. Because if you look to most of the sectors in our government, they're being led by men. What specific reforms will you advocate to ensure compliance with these mandates and increase women representation? I think as a country we have some laws, but the problem is implementation, or rather enforcement. I thank you, Honorable Chairman.
Can you deal with those?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable members. Well, let me begin with the issues raised by the Honorable Junet, Mr. Chairman. And just say, one, I think sometimes our media, and we have to give it to them, are quite innovative. Sometimes how they innovate sometimes can cause you a lot of jitters. If you read the story, if you saw the headline and you read the whole story, you could not relate the two. Because in the middle of the story, inside this, I think on page 2 or page 3 of that, that newspaper, they went ahead to say that 99.5% of all advisories given by the Office of the Attorney General have been taken and implemented. Perhaps, Mr. Chairman, if it pleases members, I could give an exit report on the performance of the of that office for the 20 months and 15 days that I was in charge. So that story was not correct. That advisories were not being taken, because the office gives advisories in respect to very, very many issues, international law. In fact, the office gives legal advisory opinions even to the county governments, and I cannot even remember which one was never implemented. If there was anything that may have perhaps not been implemented, could have been maybe the things that we advise ministries, because as perhaps the members will know, the Office of the Attorney General is signatory to every cabinet memo that is generated by every ministry. And on occasions, we've had to return very many memos to the various ministries, and I've had to issue a circular to all ministries telling them, because they always insist that the Aegis always gives them state council to sit in the ministries. So we asked them, what are those state councils doing? Because they will bring requests which are so raw. So maybe those are the only ones that they can, maybe somebody could say, those may not have been taken, because there are some ministries, some cabinet secretaries who would always argue that they think the Office of the Attorney General is the mortuary where their proposals die. But they die, they never used to die there. We would always return the half dead and the corpses to them to go and bury in their respective ministries. So maybe only to that extent. Otherwise, I must say, we had I've had a very, very exciting period at the State Law Office. The Honorable Junet, through you, Mr. Chairman, did raise the question of the relationship between the Public Service Commission and myself when I was the Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, Chairman, the relationship I had and the proposals that I put through, and I must, Mr. Chairman, through you, thank the National Assembly for, and through the chairman of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee for agreeing with my proposals, Mr. Chairman, that there was need for the office to be given the autonomy it required to recruit its own personnel. The reason being, Mr. Chairman, on occasion, they would recruit people and send them to the State Law Office. Sometimes when you look at them, they ask them, did you know the areas where we have need? Is it in the area of public trusteeship? Is it in the area of societies? Is it in the area of companies? Is it in the government transactions? Is it international law? These ones you have brought to us. So what are their key competencies? They will never be able to answer that question. They will tell you that all they needed is to recruit lawyers, and they dump them to you. So the position I took there was not a personal, it wasn't personal. It was just for posterity and to build the institution of the State Law Office, to make sure that it is fit for purpose. So, and also, and you remember, when we launched the 24th annual supplement in April this year, His Excellency the President himself, off the cuff, did speak to the fact that he had assented to that bill to give autonomy to the Office of the Attorney General to be able to recruit its staff. And he was speaking about that in the context of the fact that we were launching the 24th annual supplement after the 23rd one had been launched in 1995. So you know, His Excellency the President did see the merit in the proposals that I had made. And since, again, Mr. Chairman, the House did agree with me, and I really must remain eternally grateful to the House. The matter ended there. It was nothing personal. It was not to give me a job. It was to ensure that that office becomes what it is supposed to be, the biggest and the best law firm for the public in Kenya. And I hope that, and I'm happy, Mr. Chairman, that I've seen the nominee is a person, again, who began a working career at the state law office and has been the secretary to the advisory board at the ODPP, which is the same thing that you as a House gave me, the advisory board. That's what we were looking for. So I believe that my relationship with the Public Service Commission should not be strained on account of what I did. In fact, if I find favor, again, with you and the House, and I'm confirmed in this position, I would want to continue assisting the state law office to develop, because even then I was actually using officers from the Ministry of Public Service to help us to develop the human resources department of the state law office. So I hope that anybody who may have been, aggrieved by the decision to give that office that capacity should not have any difficulties working with me. In any event, we are conjoined at the hip, and we must work together. And differences of opinion must never make for enmity. The leader majority did raise the issue of, is it the people age 80 or? Yeah. Yes. I have done some quick assessment of that position, and I'm told currently in the mainstream public service, they may be less than 10. But of course, whether they are 10 or 1, if the directive is at 60, you go home and you are an employee, so be it. We just must live by the law. And I think this, I would want to tie this with the question, Mr. Chairman, raised by the Honorable Mishi, the member for Likoni, on this issue of gender. Mr. Chairman, I did allude to what is provided for in Article 232. Among other things in that article is the question of the special place for the youth, women, and people living with disabilities in the recruitment, even as we address the issue of other forms of diversity in our country. I think it has come to a point, Mr. Chairman, when we must now bite the bullet and implement what is in our laws. We can't have a constitution to which we just pay lip service. I think it must, unfortunately for me, Mr. Chairman, I like taking, once I take a position, I like being held to account on the basis of the position that I take, because we cannot, we just have to implement the Constitution. You in Parliament are doing your very best to try and live by that Constitution. So everybody else in the public service should also be held accountable. And I hope, Mr. Chairman, that the House will help me when I bring reports about who is not living by the constitutional imperatives, so that you can hold them to account in the way that Parliament the world over does. So, Honorable Chairman, in response to that issue raised by the Honorable Mishimboko, it is just to say that I intend to live by what is in the Constitution. This question again, Mr. Chairman, it ties alongside with that raised by the member for Pokot South. Mr. Chairman, he used to have a name. He was called Pokot 1. He raised the issue of diversity again. And I think I like his proposal, Mr. Chairman, that we need to carry regular audits in this matter, because we must bring confidence, the trust of the people to government. And one of the ways to go about this is by telling it as it is. If we find that there has been skewed recruitment, let us just be open about it, so that everybody from whichever corner of the Republic should feel that they belong to the government. There should never be a case where people in one corner of the Republic feel that there's a place called Kenya, and they think it is called Nairobi. Nairobi is Kenya, because I don't think that they belong. I agree with the Honorable Member for Pokot South. Again, this must cascade to the county service board, the county public service boards. I do know that when you go to a county, again, there are other dynamics. But the responsibility that has been assigned to the Ministry of Public Service is to come up with policies that advise county governments with respect to matters of public service. But of course, the implementation and enforcement is left to other agencies, other bodies like Parliament and other institutions. Say, for instance, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, which is a constitutional body. Then Gender and Equality Commission, and the Commission on Administrative Justice. We also have, of course, the Public Service Commission is in the Constitution also mandated to assist county government through the County Service Board to come up with policies, public service standards that should be implemented at the county level. So that would be my response to that. Mr. Chairman, there was, through you, there was the question raised by the Honorable Wekaria, the member for Nakuru Town East, if I still remember his constituency, about disciplinary cases taking far too long to resolve. And this is a matter, fortunately, Mr. Chairman, I can speak to this one for quite at great length, because I have had occasion to deal with disciplinary cases within the Public Service Commission. It is the procedure that is used that is too long, Mr. Chairman. I do recall when I was a magistrate, I got involved in dealing with some of those cases, because the process starts at the ministry level, because as you know, under clause 5 of that Article 232, the PSC is empowered to delegate any of its functions to other bodies or to some of its members, and some to any public officer or other authorities. One of the functions that they have delegated through letters they write to people called authorized officers. It is that issue of the HR function. And I think, Mr. Chairman, my own experience is that it has not been carried out properly. And it speaks volumes when cases, disciplinary cases, take so long, and possibly the staff who are the subject of those disciplinary proceedings are put on half salary, or they are not allowed